What if I told you there's a player in MLB who is hitting as well as Shohei Ohtani, plays among the best defense at third base, but you haven't seen too much of him? Because over the past few years, he's been hit with injury after injury, preventing him from reaching his potential. And once again in 2024, after going on a tear with 10 home runs in 16 games, he was placed on the injured list with no real timetable for his return. This is the story of Royce Lewis, the budding superstar who can't stop getting hurt, and it's ruining his promising young career. Royce Lewis attended Jacera Catholic High School in San Juan Capistrano, California. This was where he started to make a name for himself as one of the nation's premier baseball prospects. During his junior season, he was named the Los Angeles Times High School Baseball Player of the Year after hitting .429 with 4 home runs, helping him earn a spot at the Under Armour All-American Game at Wrigley Field and the Perfect Game All-American Showcase at Petco Park that summer, where he would go on to be named MVP at both events. This momentum he gained from this summer of success helped him stand out even more during his senior season, where he managed a .377 average, 4 home runs, and 25 stolen bases, earning him the California Gatorade Player of the Year award. A massive accomplishment, and made him one of the most decorated high school players entering the 2017 draft, where he was considered by most to be one of the top picks. But the Twins surprised everyone when they selected him first overall, later signing him to an almost $7 million bonus. After the draft, Lewis was able to play his first 54 professional games across rookie ball and single A, showcasing his speed with 18 stolen bases and his ability at the plate with an elite .381 on-base percentage. The power, however, was lacking, with just 15 extra base hits during this time. But that's the beauty of drafting someone young. He was only 18 at this time, and power is typically something you grow into through your early 20s. And a quick side note, the Orioles, who have been producing some of the best prospects in baseball for the greater part of the last decade, have actually stated that power is not one of the main attributes they look into when scouting young players. But back to it. In Lewis's second season, he started to grow into his power a bit more, this time managing 46 extra base hits in 121 games, helping him become the MVP of the Midwest League, which is single A to be exact. And because of this, he soared throughout most prospect rankings, finding himself as high as 5th best heading into the 2019 season, only behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Eloy Jimenez, and Victor Robles. Not bad company. But the 2019 season was a difficult one for Lewis. In total, he played 127 games stretched between high A and double A, where he managed just 38 walks compared to 123 strikeouts, and had just a .236 average as well as .661 OPS. But most scouts assumed his bat would continue to develop through age. After all, he was just 20 years old in 2019 and had already made his way to AA, where the average age of players he was up against were 5 years older. And his 2019 season actually ended on a high when he partook in the Arizona Fall League for the Salt River Rafters. During this time, he excelled at the plate with 12 extra base hits in 22 games to go along with a .353 average and .975 OPS, yielding yet another MVP award for his collection, as well as giving him immense momentum heading into the 2020 season. But as we all know, there was no minor league campaign that year. And while he was able to work with the Twins coaches at the team's alternate training site, missing out on a full year's worth of games was a huge loss in development for the now 21-year-old. But what hurt the most was prior to the 2021 season when the minors were back, it was discovered in February that he tore his right ACL, requiring surgery and at least 9 months to recover, ultimately ending his season before it even started. And this was a strange injury because there wasn't a specific moment when he tore it. He stated he'd been feeling some soreness while doing off-season drills, and then he slipped on some ice during the storms in Texas to exacerbate it. But regardless of how it happened, this was a major blow for Lewis, who was set to miss his second straight season worth of games, which in turn took his name out of the top 10 prospect lists. But at 21 years old, there was still time for him to develop and get back on track as one of the game's premier prospects. This seemed to be the case, as in 2022 he made his return at the start of the minor league season, this time at AAA St. Paul. And after going 1 for 4 with a walk in his first game, he finally made his way back to regular season action after 946 days of hard work, rehab, more hard work, and most importantly, patience. And during this time, he stated, "Whether it was me sitting on the couch with the ACL injury or at the alt site in 2020, I felt like I was always getting better somehow, which is fun. I think the more time you have to mature in this game, the better." Well, boy did he mature, because the last time he played in the minors in 2019, he struggled at AA, batting just .231 with a .649 OPS in 33 games. But to start the 2022 season at a whole new level in AAA, he was as dominant as ever. In his first 24 games of the season, he managed 15 extra base hits, and to go along with this, he hit over 300 with an OPS just a few points shy of 1,000. Because of this, he was called up to the Major League roster on May 6 to face the Oakland Athletics. Now, this was just for a short 11-game spell, as he was only up due to a few Twins players such as Luis Ariz being in quarantine. But he made the most of his time managing hits in all but 2 contests, helping him to a 308 average and 889 OPS during this time, with his game on May 13th against the Cleveland Guardians being the highlight, as he hit a grand slam in the bottom of the 5th inning against Brian Shaw to put the Twins up 11-2. Yeah, not a bad first go of things at the majors. But as mentioned, this was only for a brief period of time, and as the team got more healthy, he was sent back down to the minors to continue to get at bats. A decision that didn't go over well with most fans, who wanted to see their former first overall pick get more of an opportunity, especially after he performed as well as he did. But in the end, we didn't have to wait long for his return, as just a couple weeks later he was back with the club, this time for good, as the corresponding move was optioning fellow youngster Jose Miranda. This was it. Lewis had roughly 4 months left in the season, and if his second stint at the majors went anywhere close to how well his first spell went, then it was pretty fair to say he would solidify himself as the Twin star of the future. But in his first game back, he re-tore his ACL while trying to track down a fly ball in center field, requiring yet another surgery, keeping him out for the rest of the season. This was a big blow, as it was the same knee he already tore, and for athletic purposes, that's terrifying, especially for a guy like Lewis, whose game is modeled around his raw athleticism, meaning there was no telling the type of player he would return as. But before we dive deep into it, I'd like to tell you about today's sponsor, Under 510 Clothing. Under 510 is a men's clothing brand that provides comfortable and affordable clothes for all us shorter guys out there. And by clicking the link in the description, you get a $10 coupon to their website, where they have a wide selection including chinos, joggers, polos, t-shirts, and many, many more. And with summer now here, as well as this great offer, there is no better time to upgrade your wardrobe with Under 510. Thank you, Under 510, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the content. But he took his recovery step by step, made sure to be articulate with everything he did, and recovered after missing just the first 6 weeks of the 2023 season. But despite missing all that time, he came back right where he left off from, managing 4 homers and a .333 average in 10 games during his rehab assignment, before being activated off the injured list, making his season debut exactly 1 year after he suffered his second ACL tear. In his season debut against the Astros on May 29th, Lewis was the decisive player for the Twins, going 2 for 5, including opening the scoring in the 3rd inning with his 3-run shot off JP France. Then later in the game, with the Twins now trailing, he singled to center field off Ryan Presley to score the tying run, with the Twins down to their final out of the game. And they would go on to win it in the following inning, with the main reason why being Lewis's performance, as he finished the game with the highest win probability added among any Twins batter with 614, about 250 points higher than the man who hit the game-winning 2-run homer in the 10th. And over the next few weeks, Lewis became an integral part of the Twins roster once again, with a .326 average in 24 games, but the rest of the season was more of the same for Lewis, as he got injured versus the Orioles on July 1st, then returned and got injured again right before the playoffs. This was frustrating to see for everyone, for Twins fans, his teammates, and most certainly Lewis himself, who hadn't played a full season's worth of games for 5 years. But the crazy part is, despite missing all this time, none of these major injuries impacted him once he returned. For example, in 2023, between August 27th and 28th, he became the first player in Twins franchise history to hit a grand slam in back-to-back games. Then on September 15th, he broke the club's franchise record with 4 grand slams in a single season. Additionally, to finish the year, he had a memorable September with 6 homers and 23 RBIs in 18 games, to go along with an above 1,000 OPS, as well as the Rookie of the Month award. And in the end, Lewis's nice finish to the season gave him some great overall numbers in 2023, with 15 homers and 52 RBIs in just 58 games, as well as an above 300 average and 921 OPS. In fact, he became one of just 8 rookies to hit at least 15 homers and manage an above 300 average and 150 OPS plus since the wildcard era started in 1995, joining some very elite company. But heading into the playoffs, Royce Lewis, in typical Royce Lewis fashion, was injured, missing the final 10 games of the season due to a strained hamstring. He even stated before the playoffs started that his injury had not gotten much better, but he fought through it, and instead of playing the field, he found his way into the lineup by playing DH, where he would go on to make history in just his first 2 at-bats.
Does not go, and that one is drilled deep to left field, going back for show, turning, looking, see ya! A 2-run home run for Lewis, and just like that, the Twins are up 2-0.
After the opening inning, swinging a fly ball, right center field, deep, Springer back, he will turn, back and goes, gone! Unbelievable! 2 at-bats, 2 home runs, this kid is amazing!
These 2 home runs went on to be all the Twins needed, as the pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez was lights out in Game 1, holding the Blue Jays bats to just 1 run on 6 hits. Then in the ALDS, while the Twins did get knocked out, Lewis continued to mash with the bat with a homer in Game 1 off Hector Neris and another in Game 4, this time off Jose Urquidy. It truly felt like everything he touched turned into something special. For example, during the regular season, he hit 2 homers with a launch angle of 41 degrees. To put this in perspective, roughly 1.7% of all home runs are hit greater than 40. It's because most balls hit like this end up nowhere close to the seats, just like this one, and the fact that Lewis was able to hit 2 balls out at 41 degrees is an incredible display of power. This meant much of the baseball world was raving about Royce Lewis, as the thought of him finally having a healthy offseason to prepare for the 2024 season meant the sky was the limit for him. And while he did manage to stay healthy during spring training and make the Twins opening day roster for the first time in his career, he injured his quadricep in just the first game of the season, taking him out of action for about 2.5 months. But when he returned, no one could have ever imagined the type of terror he would bring down on the entire league. Since returning from the injured list on June 4th against the Yankees, he has recorded 9 home runs in just 23 games with an OPS at 984, igniting the Twins' offense in the process, helping them post 5.7 runs per game, a massive improvement from the 4.4 they averaged while he was out. Another interesting part about his game was brought up just recently after his offer on June 18th, because after the game he stated, "Hey, I don't do that slump thing. That's not a real thing for me. I understand that's a thing, baseball, you're going to go into a slump or whatever, but for me, I don't have that mindset. It's a new day." This sparked everyone's interest into whether he has ever gone into a slump, and when looking at his career, we can uncover that he's only had 3 straight games without a hit just once in his career. Once. That's incredible. This level of belief in oneself can be attributed to his many injuries, because while unable to play, you have a lot of time to think and grow away from the game. And each time he had to step away, whether it be for his ACL, his hamstring, or his quadricep, he always came back stronger, because he knew if he could overcome his injuries, he'd already accomplished the hardest part. This is a type of mindset that can only be instilled in the toughest of players, and for Lewis, only being 25 years old to already have this ingrained in his mind is a tool that he will be able to use for the rest of his career, which will continue to have its ups and downs. And speaking of this, while making the video you're watching right now, I had to go back and completely change the narrative, because once again he got injured, this time leaving the Twins contest against the Detroit Tigers on July 2nd due to left groin tightness. This is depressing, because while he did miss 2.5 months early in the season, there was still an opportunity for him to play close to 100 games, but now, who knows? This was supposed to be the year he was finally healthy, and because of this, a lot of people are doubting whether he will ever reach his potential at the majors. But as a wise man once said, I think the more time you have to mature in this game, the better. And if there's anything we have learned from Lewis's career, it's that with every setback, he always managed to come back stronger than he ever was before.